carefully because what I'm about to tell you is going to save you from making the biggest financial mistake of your life. I'm Kevin O'Leary, and I've made millions, I've lost millions, and I've made them back again. I know money, I understand wealth, and I'm here to tell you that everything you think you know about buying a home is probably wrong. Before we get into this, I need you to do something for me right now. Hit that subscribe button. Smash it. Because the advice I'm giving you today is worth more than what most financial advisors charge thousands of dollars for. And if you really want to be part of this community, become a member. We're building something here, a group of people who refuse to be financial idiots. Now let's talk about the lie, the American dream they call it. Buy a home, build equity, retire rich. Sounds beautiful, doesn't it? Sounds like something your parents told you, something your grandparents believed in. But here's the truth, and I'm not going to sugarcoat it because I don't do that. A home is not an investment. Let me say that again because I know it's going to make half of you angry. Your home is not an investment. It's a liability. It's a money pit. And if you don't understand the difference, you're going to spend the next 30 years of your life being house poor, broke, and wondering why you can't build any real wealth. Let me explain this to you like I'm explaining it to someone on Shark Tank who just walked in with a terrible business plan. When you buy a home, you're not just buying the house. You're buying a commitment to bleed money every single month for things that don't make you richer. Property taxes, they go up every year. Insurance, it goes up every year. Maintenance, the roof needs replacing. The furnace dies. The pipes burst in winter. And don't even get me started on homeowners association fees. Every single one of these costs eats into your wealth. And here's the kicker. None of it goes toward building your net worth. You know what an investment is? An investment is something that puts money in your pocket every month. Rental properties, dividend stocks, bonds, businesses, those are investments. Your primary residence, that's consumption. You're consuming shelter. And that's fine. We all need a place to live. But don't lie to yourself and call it an investment. I see people all the time, young couples, they save up every penny they have. They scrape together a down payment. They're so proud of themselves. And then what do? They take out a mortgage that's going to cost them 3 times what the house is actually worth by the time they pay it off. They lock themselves into 30 years of payments. 30 years. Do you understand what you're giving up when you do that? You're giving up flexibility. You're giving up the ability to move for a better job opportunity. You're giving up the capital you could be putting into real investments that actually grow wealth. And let's talk about this equity myth because this is where people really delude themselves. They say, but Kevin, I'm building equity. Every payment I make, I own more of the house. That's true. But here's what they don't tell you. For the first 10 years of your mortgage, you're barely paying down any principal. Almost all of your payment is going to interest. You're making the bank rich, not yourself. And even when you do start building equity, it's dead money. It's locked up in the house. You can't spend it. You can't invest it. It just sits there doing nothing for you unless you sell the house or take out a home equity loan, which is just another way of saying you're going back into debt. You want to know what really makes me crazy? The real estate agents, the mortgage brokers, the whole industry that's built around convincing you that you need to buy the biggest house you can possibly afford. They use this phrase, they say you should spend about 30% of your income on housing. 30%, that's insane. That's financial suicide. If you're spending 30% of your income on your mortgage, you're leaving yourself no room to invest, no room to save, no room to build real wealth. You're a slave to that house. And here's the thing, the bank doesn't care about you. The real estate agent doesn't care about you. They get paid when you sign on that dotted line. They get their commission and they walk away. And you're stuck with decades of payments and a property that might not even be worth what you paid for it in 10 years. I've seen it happen over and over again. The market crashes, people lose their jobs, they can't make their mortgage payments, and suddenly that dream home becomes a nightmare. They're underwater on their mortgage, they owe more than the house is worth, and they can't sell without taking a massive loss. But if you had been renting, if you had been investing that money instead, you'd have options, you'd have liquidity, you'd have freedom. Now I know what you're thinking. Kevin, are you saying I should never buy a home? No. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is you need to be smart about it. You need to understand what you're getting into. And most importantly, you need to make sure that buying a home doesn't destroy your ability to build wealth in other ways. There are rules, there are guidelines, and if you follow them, you can buy a home without being an idiot about it. But if you ignore what I'm about to tell you, you're going to end up like millions of other people, trapped in a house they can't afford, working jobs they hate, just to keep a roof over their head. So pay attention. Because in the next part, I'm going to tell you exactly when it makes sense to buy a home and when you should run in the opposite direction. I'm going to give you the cold, hard numbers that will tell you whether you're ready or whether you're about to make a catastrophic mistake. So let's get into the rules, because this is where most people fail. They buy emotionally instead of logically. They fall in love with a house, with the idea of a house, and they throw all common sense out the window. I don't do emotion when it comes to money. Money is math. Money is strategy. And if you want to win at the game of wealth, you need to treat every financial decision like a business transaction. Here's rule number 1, and this is non-negotiable. You do not buy a home unless you have at least 20% down payment saved up. I don't care if the bank will give you a mortgage with 5% down or 3% down or one of those insane zero down payment loans. Those are traps. When you put down less than 20%, you get hit with something called private mortgage insurance. That's extra money you're throwing away every month, money that does absolutely nothing for you. It doesn't build equity. It doesn't reduce your principal. It just evaporates. It's the bank's way of protecting themselves because they know you're a higher risk. And guess what? If you can't save 20%, you're proving them right. But it's not just about avoiding mortgage insurance. When you put down 20%, you're starting with real equity in the property. You're not underwater from day one. And more importantly, it shows discipline. It shows that you can delay gratification, that you can save money, that you're not going to be one of those people who's living paycheck to paycheck trying to make a mortgage payment. If you can't save 20%, you're not ready to buy a home. Period. End of story. Keep renting, keep saving, and come back when you're serious. Now here's rule number 2. Your total housing costs, and I mean everything, your mortgage payment, your property taxes, your insurance, your maintenance, all of it should not exceed 20% of your gross income. Not 30% like the mortgage brokers tell you, 20%. And I'm being generous with that number. If you want to build real wealth, you should be aiming for 15% or less. Because every dollar you spend on housing is a dollar you can't invest. Every dollar locked up in that house is a dollar that's not working for you in the stock market, in a business, in real assets that generate cash flow. Let me give you an example. Let's say you make $100,000 a year. According to the traditional advice, you could afford to spend $30,000 a year on housing. That's $2,500 a month. But if you follow my rule and keep it at 20%, that's $20,000 a year, about $1,667 a month. That difference, that extra $10,000 a year, that's money you can invest. Over 30 years, if you invest that $10,000 every year and get an average return of 8%, you're looking at over $1 million. $1 million that you would have thrown away on a bigger house, on granite countertops, on a walk-in closet you don't need. This is what people don't understand. The cost of buying too much house isn't just the monthly payment. It's the opportunity cost. It's all the wealth you could have built if you had been smarter with your money. And let me tell you something else. The bank doesn't care about your financial future. When they pre-approve you for a mortgage, they're telling you the maximum they're willing to lend you, not what you should actually borrow. They want you to borrow as much as possible because that's how they make money. More interest for them means less wealth for you. Rule number 3, and this one is critical, you need at least 6 months of expenses saved in an emergency fund before you buy a home. Not 6 months of your current rent payment, 6 months of all your expenses. Because once you own a home, expenses multiply, things break, things need replacing, the water heater dies, the air conditioning goes out, a tree falls on your roof. If you don't have cash sitting in a bank account ready to handle these emergencies, you're going to be forced to put them on a credit card. And then you're not just paying for the repair, you're paying 20% interest on top of it. You're going backwards financially. I see this all the time. People stretch themselves to barely afford the down payment. They drain their savings, and then 3 months later, something breaks, and they're in a financial crisis. That's not building wealth. That's building stress. An emergency fund is your buffer. It's your protection. And if you don't have it, you're not ready to own a home. Now let's talk about the kind of home you should buy, because this is where people really lose their minds. They want the dream house. They want the big kitchen, the master suite, the finished basement, the 3-car garage. And they convince themselves they need all of it. You don't need any of it. What you need is shelter. What you need is a place that fits your actual lifestyle, not the lifestyle you think you're supposed to have. Here's my advice. Buy the smallest, most affordable home in the best neighborhood you can find. Not the biggest house in a mediocre neighborhood, the smallest house in a great neighborhood. Why? Because real estate value is all about location. The big house in the bad neighborhood is never going to appreciate the way the small house in the great neighborhood will. And when you buy small, you keep your costs low. Lower mortgage, lower property taxes, lower insurance, lower utilities, lower maintenance. You free up money to invest in things that actually make you wealthy. And here's the beautiful part. If you buy smart, if you buy below your means, you give yourself options. If the market crashes, you can afford to hold on. If you lose your job, you have breathing room. If a better opportunity comes along in another city, you can sell without being desperate. Flexibility is wealth. Options are wealth. Being trapped in a house you can't afford is poverty, even if it looks nice from the outside. Let me also tell you what you should never do. Never buy a house thinking it's going to make you rich. I've heard people say real estate always goes up. That's garbage. Real estate goes through cycles. Sometimes it goes up, sometimes it goes down, and sometimes it stays flat for years. If you bought a house in 2006, right before the crash, you watched your investment lose 30, 40, 50% of its value. Some people still haven't recovered. You know what didn't crash? Diversified investments, index funds, businesses that generate cash flow. Those recovered and kept growing. Your house is not going to make you rich. Your investments will make you rich. Your house is just a place to live. Treat it that way. And one more thing before we move on. If you're buying a house because you think renting is throwing money away, you're wrong. Renting is not throwing money away. Renting is paying for flexibility. It's paying for the freedom to move when opportunity knocks. And it's often cheaper than owning when you factor in all the hidden costs of home ownership. I rent in some of the cities where I spend time because it makes financial sense. I don't need to own property everywhere. I need liquidity. I need my capital working for me, not locked up in bricks and mortar. So if you're renting right now and people are telling you you're wasting money, tell them to mind their own business. You're not wasting anything. You're staying flexible. You're staying liquid, and you're waiting for the right opportunity. Now, we're not done yet. In the next section, I'm going to talk about the biggest traps people fall into when they do buy a home. I'm going to tell you about the mistakes that will absolutely destroy your financial future and how to avoid them. This is the part where I show you how to protect yourself from your own worst instincts. Let's talk about the traps, because this is where people who think they're being smart end up destroying themselves financially. The first trap, and this one gets almost everyone, is lifestyle inflation. You buy a house and suddenly you need furniture to fill it. You need curtains, you need a lawnmower, you need decorations, you need all this stuff that you didn't need when you were renting a smaller place. And it doesn't stop there. Now you've got this nice house, so you need a nicer car in the driveway. You start going out to nicer restaurants because, well, you're a homeowner now. You deserve it, right? Wrong. This is how people go broke. They let their lifestyle expand to match their house, and suddenly they're spending every penny they make. They've got no savings, no investments, nothing. They look rich, but they're actually poor. They're one emergency away from financial disaster. I call these people the fake rich, and there are millions of them. They live in nice houses, they drive nice cars, but their net worth is zero or negative. Don't be one of them. The second trap is renovations. Oh, this one kills me. People buy a house and immediately they want to start fixing it up. They want to remodel the kitchen, redo the bathrooms, finish the basement. And they convince themselves it's an investment. They say, we're adding value to the home. Listen to me carefully. Most renovations do not add value equal to what you spend. If you spend $50,000 on a kitchen renovation, you might add $30,000 to the value of your home. You just lost $20,000, and that's if you're lucky. Some renovations add almost nothing to the value. That fancy home theater system you installed, the next buyer doesn't care. They're going to rip it out and put in what they want. You want to know when you should renovate? When something is broken and needs to be fixed. That's it. Don't renovate to impress your neighbors. Don't renovate because you saw something on a home improvement show. And definitely don't renovate with borrowed money. If you can't pay cash for a renovation, you can't afford it. Taking out a home equity loan to remodel your kitchen is insanity. You're taking an asset and turning it back into debt. You're going backwards. The third trap, and this one is huge, is treating your home equity like a piggy bank. I see people do this all the time. They've been paying their mortgage for a few years, they've built up some equity, and then they take out a home equity line of credit. They use it to buy a boat, to go on vacation, to pay off credit card debt, and they tell themselves it's smart because the interest rate is lower than a credit card. But here's what they don't realize. They just turned unsecured debt into secured debt. If you can't pay your credit card, they can't take your house. But if you can't pay your home equity loan, they absolutely can take your house. You've put your shelter at risk for a boat or a vacation. That's not smart. That's stupid. Your home equity should only be used for one thing, buying your next property if you're upgrading, or it should be left alone. Don't touch it. It's not spending money. It's not fun money. It's your net worth, and you need to protect it. Now let me talk about something that really gets under my skin. The 30-year mortgage. This is the standard in America. 30 years of payments. Do you know how much interest you pay on a 30-year mortgage? Let's say you borrow $300,000 at 5% interest. Over 30 years, you're going to pay almost $280,000 in interest alone. You're paying nearly double for that house, nearly double. And for what? So you can have a lower monthly payment? That's short-term thinking. That's poor people thinking. If you can afford it, get a 15-year mortgage. Yes, the monthly payment will be higher, but you'll pay the house off in half the time, and you'll pay a fraction of the interest. On that same $300,000 loan at 5%, a 15-year mortgage costs you about $120,000 in interest. You just saved $160,000, $160,000 that you can invest, that you can use to build real wealth. And here's the other benefit. When you have a 15-year mortgage, you're forced to buy less house. You can't afford the mansion because the payments would be too high. So you buy something reasonable, something you can actually afford, and you pay it off fast. That's how you build wealth. That's how you win. But if you can't afford a 15-year mortgage, if it would push your housing costs above that 20% threshold I talked about, then you're looking at too much house. Go smaller, find something cheaper. Because a 30-year mortgage should be your last resort, not your first choice. Let me also tell you about something most people don't think about, the hidden costs of home ownership that never go away. Property taxes, they go up every single year. I don't care what the politicians promise you. Your property taxes are going up. In some states, they can double over a decade, and there's nothing you can do about it except pay or lose your house. Insurance, same thing. It goes up every year. And if you live in an area with hurricanes or wildfires or floods, your insurance can become insanely expensive. I've seen people whose insurance premiums tripled in 5 years. Suddenly, that affordable house isn't so affordable anymore. And then there's maintenance. This is the one people really underestimate. Financial experts say you should budget 1 to 2% of your home's value every year for maintenance. So if your house is worth $400,000, that's $4,000 to $8,000 a year just to keep it from falling apart. A new roof can cost $15,000. A new HVAC system can cost $10,000. These aren't optional expenses. These are things that will break, and you will have to fix them. If you're not prepared for that, you're in trouble. So here's what I want you to do. Before you buy a house, sit down and calculate the real cost, not just the mortgage payment, everything. Take the purchase price and figure out what your monthly mortgage payment will be with 20% down. Then add your property taxes, add your insurance, add 1.5% of the home's value divided by 12 for monthly maintenance costs. Add HOA fees if there are any. Add utilities. Now look at that number. Can you afford that and still save 20% of your income? Can you afford that and still max out your retirement accounts? Can you afford that and still have money left over to invest? If the answer is no, you're looking at too much house. Go smaller or wait until you're making more money. Now let me give you my final thoughts here because this is important. Buying a home can be part of building wealth, but it should never be your entire wealth building strategy. Your home should be a small piece of a much larger financial picture. You should have money in the stock market. You should have money in retirement accounts. You should have investments that generate income. Your home is just shelter. It's a place to live while you build your empire everywhere else. And if you ever have to choose between buying a house and investing in your financial future, choose the investments every single time. I'd rather see you renting a modest apartment with $1 million in investments than owning a fancy house with nothing in the bank. Because the person with the investments has freedom. They have options. They can retire early. They can take risks. They can live life on their terms. The person with just the house, they're stuck. They've got to keep working to pay the bills. They can't retire because all their money is locked up in a house they can't sell without losing their lifestyle. Don't let that be you. Here's my challenge to you. If you're thinking about buying a home right now, I want you to take a hard look at your finances. Run the numbers. Be honest with yourself. Can you really afford it? Or are you trying to convince yourself you can because you want it so badly? If the numbers don't work, have the discipline to walk away. Keep renting. Keep saving, keep investing, and when you're truly ready, when you have 20% down, when you have 6 months of expenses saved, when you can keep your housing costs below 20% of your income, then you can buy, and when you do buy smart, buy small, buy in a great location, buy something that gives you flexibility, not something that traps you. Now, I need you to do something for me right now. If this video opened your eyes, if it made you think differently about the biggest purchase of your life, hit that like button. Leave a comment and tell me, are you ready to buy a home or are you going to wait and build wealth first? And if you haven't subscribed yet, what are you waiting for? Subscribe to this channel and become a member. I'm here to give you the truth about money, about investing, about building real wealth, not the fairy tales the real estate agents want you to believe, the cold, hard facts that will actually make you rich. This is your financial future we're talking about. Don't screw it up because you fell in love with a house. Be smart, be disciplined, and build wealth the right way. Now get out there and make